Yo, what's up guys, welcome back to another video. This is a reaction to 20 biggest cultural differences for Americans in Europe. This guy is a well-travelled man. I feel like he's been to all corners of the earth. I've watched his channel, I feel like, for a few years. I've not watched a lot of his channel, but I've watched him here and there exploring different places because it's always interesting seeing people travel to places that maybe you'd expect to not be possible to travel to, or maybe you'd expect someone to have issues there. But yeah, he's been to a lot of countries. I think he's been to every country. I think he says that in his intros. But yeah, I've obviously watched him before. I'm assuming a lot of you guys will know who he is. But cultural differences for Americans in Europe, we're going to see. And yeah, let's jump into this reaction.
I've traveled to every single country in Europe and spent more than 2.5 years living on the continent.
This city is just magical. Gives me the goosebumps.
But as an American, I got to admit, things are a little bit different here than back home. It costs $3 to use this bathroom. Of course, there are many similarities. Both the United States and Europe are leaders in innovation. They share a love for sports and produce the world's most famous movies, music, and fashion trends. Both have world-class universities, high standards of living, and share a commitment to human rights. But in this video, I want to share with you 20 cultural differences that I find between the US and the majority of Europe, all based on my own personal travel experiences. Let me know in the comments down below if you agree or disagree with my thoughts.
Thank you.
Dankeschön.
Bitteschön.
Dankeschön.
We're here in Salzburg, Austria, at a beautiful cafe here.
So look, he's in the US. Sorry, he's not in the US. He's in Europe. And what people tend to say, and it's fair enough, is Europe is such a wide variety of countries. So you can't just group up Europe together. But I feel like for the interest of this video, it makes sense. And look, obviously European countries are very different. Like Germany compared to Spain, completely different cultures. Or Spain compared to England, completely different. But I feel like there are still similarities between those countries that maybe the US just won't have whatsoever. So even though European countries are very different, there's still similarities there. US states also have differences as well, but it's not as extreme as like, obviously different countries. But yeah, I know these videos obviously annoy people here and there. I think Europeans, because it's like, yeah, you're judging this as a European, but then my country in Europe's completely different. But hey, it is what it is.
But the problem is, we can't order because they don't come to your table, even if you flag them down. Dude, can you flag him down? He's here. Oh.
When I went to Austria, we went to Vienna, and when we ate out, I'm trying to think, did we have issues with like ordering food? I feel like the service when we went there was all right, but I guess him as an American, he's experienced the best possible service. So for him, it's going to be a bit of a culture shock, to say the least.
Dana got him. Good job. You're so shy.
He totally ignored me too.
Is it awkward? This is actually the home of Mozart. He was born just around the corner from here. I wonder if he had to wait this long to get a table.
15 minutes.
How are you?
And Aperol Spritz, please.
I'll have the same ham and cheese toast, and then oh, sorry.
Bro, this is the worst service possible. To be fair to him, he's probably like, there's probably only 2 people serving people at this place, so they're busy as hell. But yeah, like from what I've seen in people going to the US, going to restaurants, the service, the people are so kind, they're so chatty. This is completely different. It's like they've commercialized restaurants in Europe in terms of just quick, efficient. Sorry, not quick and efficient. That's just not quick either. So they've not commercialized it. It's just a long wait, actually. It's the complete opposite. I don't really know what I'm saying. I was sort of trying to say like it's just a process of them just sort of getting you your food and not really being like chatty or anything. Just basically asking what you want. No small talk or anything. But that's the case, but then it's not quick and efficient, so it sort of defeats the point.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And pate, thank you. It's awkward. In the US, the waiters and waitresses go over the top to make sure your experience is like top. Yeah, because they get tips. And they'll check on you every 5 minutes, like, oh, we just want to make sure everything's okay. But here in Europe, like, they don't give a about you. They basically come by, they're like, hey, what do you want?
Kind of like that.
Yeah, I kind of like it too. In the US, they step over your toes too much sometimes, and then you feel awkward. You're like, okay,
there's probably an in-between.
Food is finally here, and man, can't beat a cappuccino in Europe. Dudo has pate, but he won't eat it.
What a waste.
Meal was great. Now we're just trying to pay. It's always an interesting experience.
It is.
I told the
Paying
guy
is hard.
Yes.
Like in England, it's a lot easier because you just sort of put your hand up or whatever. You go to the thingy, but like when I went to like Amsterdam, and I feel like Austria as well, it's just a whole process. Or you'll ask for the bill, and then it'll be like 10 minutes before you get your bill.
Just be back. Just like walking back and forth. Excuse me.
Wow.
How do you say excuse me in German?
Entschuldigung.
We've been trying to pay for like 15 minutes, but
Oh my god. Just,
yeah, they just.
wait to raise his hand.
I raised my hand like 5 times. I might
This
have to
is
rely
not
on you to
great
do that for me.
service. Probably extremely,
Hi, we just have pay,
Poor.
please. Yeah.
even for Europe. But again, maybe he's being overworked. Who
So I
knows
just
the
got this
situation?
rental car in Germany, and you have no idea how much of a pain in the ass it was to get an automatic car. Almost all the cars in Europe are manual, which I know I'm gonna get made fun of in this video because most Americans don't know how to drive stick shift, but at least they have them, that's for sure. When you think about driving in America, Americans love their big trucks and SUVs, and we also drive on the right side of the road, where in Europe, it's mostly on the right side, but some countries like Ireland and the UK, it's on the left side. Driving on the Autobahn here where there's no speed limit and the cars are flying by, like just, and they drive right on your tail, and if you don't pull over, they'll just like right behind you. Pretty intimidating. I'm going 130, that car must be going 200. Also, when you're driving in Europe, you have to look out for all the little signs and the little bumps everywhere. It's quite different than back home. So you just gotta really pay attention. And of course, the signs aren't all in English, which makes sense because these countries don't speak English as a first language. So you just gotta pay extra close attention to what's going on the street in front of you. See that sign on the right? What does it say? You have metros, trams, buses, a lot of pedestrians, people on bicycles. There's a lot more going on when you're driving in cities in Europe. And also, the roads can be really narrow, like where you have to fold your mirror in just to get through a little alleyway. It's really stressful sometimes if you're not used to it. And you have to have really good
Fucking hell, see, this is mental. Look at how small the space is.
to get through a little alleyway. It's really stressful sometimes if you're
Look at this. What the hell, man?
not used to it. And you have to have really good judgment on the boundaries of your car. Careful on the right side. Okay.
Mental.
I think I gotta plug this in.
How was the drive?
The cobblestone streets are this big in the car.
Is this to get to the hotel?
All right, it's time for a
Wow.
little gasoline experience in Europe. Check this out. So first, you pull in like usual. But the tricky thing is that most rental cars, let's say, I don't know about most cars, but rental cars take diesel, not regular gasoline. You can't f it up, otherwise the car's not gonna drive. So I gotta go diesel. Choose the right one, so diesel. You put it in. If you've noticed, I haven't paid anything yet. I have not paid a cent. I'm just coming here and putting gas straight into the car. It works on the trust system here. You fill up the tank and then you go inside and pay. So technically I could just drive off without paying. There's a lot of cameras here, so I'll definitely get caught and I'll definitely get a bill in the mail or something. But if you're in a pinch and you're in a rush and you have to get gas and you have to dip out, you could technically do it for free and not pay the bill. But that wouldn't be a good thing to do. Next thing you'll notice is the prices. It's pretty expensive. I'm only filling up a half tank right now of this car. It was exactly half. About $60 for a half a tank. That's expensive.
That is mad.
And now I go inside and pay. Hello, number 9. Thank you. Bye-bye. To be honest, it is a pretty efficient system once you get the hang of it. Americans work longer hours and get fewer vacation days than Europeans, almost across the board. In the US, the average worker gets about 2 weeks of paid vacation per year, while here in Europe, employees often enjoy up to 6 weeks. Europeans like to call these breaks holidays, whereas we call them vacation. The two words essentially mean the same thing, but in Europe, they take their leisure time very seriously. If you just visit any park in any European city, you'll see people out frolicking around, having a picnic, going on a bike ride, or simply just laying there and spending the whole day outside. In America, we have this culture of being really busy and overworked and feeling like it's a good thing, like we strive for that, we want that. Where in Europe, it seems to be the opposite.
What the fuck?
Yes, you can make the argument that this is why so many innovations come from the US, because we are go-getters, which is awesome. But you could also make the argument that Europeans do enjoy their lives more. Many Americans see long hours as a sign of productivity and success. They often brag about their packed schedules and time spent at the office. Europeans, on the other hand, value downtime and believe taking time off to recharge is essential for well-being and productivity.
Clearly the party's over there.
Even in some European countries like Spain, businesses will shut down for a few hours in the afternoon for a long break. In the US, this would be unheard of, where lunch is nothing more than a quick meal at your desk. The work week also differs significantly. In France and Germany, the standard work week is about 35 hours, with strict limits on overtime. In the US, the typical work week is 40 hours, with many people working much more.
Damn.
America's private healthcare system is crazy expensive, whereas in most of Europe, they offer universal healthcare funded by taxes. Americans will often go to the emergency room for urgent care, while Europeans see general practitioners regularly and have easy access to local clinics. In the US, having a medical emergency can bankrupt you. In Europe, you're covered. Americans deal with high insurance premiums, copays, and out-of-pocket expenses. Many Americans will actually avoid seeing doctors because of the high costs. Europeans simply do not face these barriers. Regular checkups, specialist visits, and surgeries are generally free or at a really low cost. The focus in Europe is on preventative care and early treatment. The US system emphasizes treatment after problems arise, often leading to higher costs or worse outcomes. Another huge difference in healthcare is the cost of prescription drugs. In the US, they are...
See, for me, as someone who uses an inhaler and I have like eczema, so I need stuff like creams and stuff, I'm so thankful that I've not got the insane prescriptions. I pay £9 for 2 inhalers whenever I get them. So usually like £9 every 1.5 months, because they will last me about that amount of time. And then the creams is £9 per cream. So I mean, I don't know how much it would cost. Plus for creams in the US, I assume prescription creams probably aren't as expensive because you can just get them from shops, I'm pretty sure, or pharmacies without having a prescription. To be fair, so it's not anywhere near as much. But with inhalers and stuff, I feel like it's definitely a bit more. Unless you've got a very good job where you have like insurance and stuff, or you have insurance in general. But then you're still paying the insurance, and I don't know how much it brings it down either.
Are so expensive. Whereas in Europe and most of the world, they're way more affordable.
A lot of people actually get them for free here as well. You get them for free in the UK until you're 18, and then past 18, you then can get them for free if like you don't, I guess, earn a certain amount of money, or you're living off money from the council or the country, like you don't have a job, etc. But yeah, a lot of people also pay for them as well.
All my American friends out
This is where Europe takes the L for sure. I mean, paying and stuff. The UK, I don't think really fits into this. Maybe bar London. But public toilets, in my city, are there really public toilets? In like malls there are, but I assume there are also more like in malls in Europe. I'm trying to think of like public toilets throughout like my city though. I live in a small city, but I don't think there really are public toilets dotted around. Maybe at like parks and stuff.
there might find this one to be really shocking. You
That's it,
actually
though.
have to pay money to use the bathroom in Europe. And the experience is not all that enjoyable.
There's someone who waits there. I've never experienced that.
These urinals are pretty close together. It would not fly in the US. No space to pee.
Oh my God.
You'd think to pay to go into a toilet would be a nice bathroom, a nice toilet, but they're not.
It's unusual to say the best. You gotta stand up to go to the bathroom.
Is this like Turkey and stuff? I think it is. That was the first place I travelled to, and when I went to Turkey and I was experiencing this, I was like, what the hell have I got myself into? I couldn't go. I was like, what the fuck do I do? I just couldn't go. It was so strange
My
for me.
first time coming to this continent, I could not believe my eyes when they were asking me to pay, usually around $1, but in Paris, I actually had to pay $4 to use the bathroom one time. And you could argue on one hand, it's nice to have clean facilities when you want to use a bathroom. I mean, nobody wants to pee in filth and dirt. But I mean,
Nope.
come on, paying for a bathroom, this is something that I just don't agree with. And I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments down below. What do you think about paying to use the bathroom? Are you for it to have clean facilities, or are you against it? You just want to do your business and move on for the day. Just want to take a quick break and thank the sponsor of this video, Airalo. If
Go
you're a
on.
traveler,
Love that. Guns, here we go.
Say 4570.
Damn.
Gun ownership is widespread and accepted in the US, protected by the Second Amendment. Many Americans view gun ownership as a fundamental right and a part of their cultural heritage.
Did you grow up around guns like with your father? So
Yeah, he was the one who taught me how to handle firearms and go shooting. Everyone here grew up with them, so they understand the dangers of them, the safety, you know, what you need to be prepared with them. It's a different way of life, I would say.
In other words, guns are a means of personal protection and a symbol of freedom. And people believe that having a gun is essential for defending themselves and their families. As a result, the US has the highest rate of civilian gun ownership in the world, with 121 guns per 100 citizens.
Damn.
However, this widespread access to firearms comes with significant consequences. For the last 5 consecutive years, there have been more than 600 mass shootings, which is defined as when 4 or more people are killed.
We are learning new details about a mass shooting.
The suspect fled, setting off a police chase before crashing into a ditch.
This statistic is really alarming, and it just shares the downside of having guns in the US. It's honestly terrible and my least favorite thing if I had to pick one about United States society. All the killings with guns. It's just so sad. I'm numb to the news and I don't even know what to say when I hear about another shooting. It's just really, really, really terrible. In contrast, Europe has strict gun control laws and much lower ownership rates. In fact, most European countries require extended background checks, mandatory training, and valid reasons for owning a firearm, such as hunting or sports shooting, not just a casual, everyday gun owner. These strict regulations make it difficult for the average European to own a gun or to get a gun, which as a result makes gun violence extremely rare in Europe. And I gotta be honest, it's much safer here than in the US.
Damn.
Both the USA and Europe are home to a wide variety of religion.
they're just beautiful.
However, in the USA, religion is expressed more openly.
Europe's very diverse for religion. I mean, I guess the US is as well. But you have Muslim countries, you have Christian countries. I don't know if you have Jewish countries, but you definitely have a country with a lot of Jewish people living there. But yeah, it's very diverse with different kinds. Like there's Orthodox Christians, and then there's like different, Protestants. Yeah, there's loads to be fair.
With a lot of believers attending regular services. Do you guys hear that? The call to prayer. I just got goosebumps. I can't believe I'm in America right now. The US is predominantly Christian, and churches play a central role in community life, often hosting social gatherings and charity drives. Public expressions of faith are common, such as prayers at sporting events and religious symbols in schools. You'll also see that in big cities, they organize religious festivals and parades.
What the hell is that?
In contrast, Europe is more secular, with a lot less religious people. Like right here in the Czech Republic, it's actually the most atheist country in the world.
Is it?
Over 60% of Czechs don't believe in religion.
Damn.
60. This secular mindset is also clear in the politics of many European countries. Governments tend to maintain a clear separation between church and state, ensuring that religious beliefs do not influence policy. Also, in many European nations, religious education in public schools is minimal or just non-existent.
Public transportation.
As we approach the lovely Charles Bridge, let's get our facts straight on this one. The USA is definitely a car country. The majority of Americans rely on their personal vehicles for daily commutes, whether it's to work, to a restaurant, or just to the store. We also have a crazy highway system, which makes a car kind of a necessity. This reliance on cars results in a high cost for gasoline, waiting in lines, parking, all these other things that come along with having a car for Americans. Oh, and don't get me started on traffic. It's the worst. Go to Los Angeles, San Francisco, Dallas, New York, Chicago. Traffic is the worst. Europe, on the other hand, has extensive public transportation networks all over the place. Trams, buses, metros, rollerblades, electric scooters.
We just rented these scooters.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of rental. You can rent like scooters, or you can rent electric bikes, or just normal bicycles. Which to be fair become quite handy because it just gets you from point A to point B very quick, and it will just be a short ride, like a 10-minute ride or whatever.
Pretty awesome, driving through the Roman Forum.
Woo! It's almost like public transportation starts and ends in Europe. It's so immaculate, so clean, so reliable, so safe, and so easy everywhere on this continent.
Cruising around Copenhagen, grandma and grandpa on a bike.
Woo! Having fun.
You think it's different than America?
Oh yeah, you can't ride your bikes and your cars on the same street.
As the sun starts to rise here
Really?
in Prague.
Are they like US cities that are more like bike friendly and stuff, or are US cities just in general just fully focused on the cars? Because I assume certain places may like allow cyclists on certain like street. I mean, they're probably allowed. It's just not common to see them. But there's also, is it like a US cycling culture? Like surely there is. I feel like maybe to a certain degree, but I'm not sure.
I'm just getting goosebumps just looking at this view. Look at
Maybe
this.
more like mountain bikes and stuff, because I guess the scenery and the terrain in certain regions will be perfect for mountain biking and stuff, but I don't know.
Does not get any better than this. Absolutely crazy. Anyway, so as I was saying, European cities like Prague are literally designed with public transportation in mind. It's also super easy in Europe to take a high-speed rail train to any city. Again, I
Not in England. We'll take a step back here because it's not good here.
have to side with the Europeans on this one.
I am outside Dresden train station and heading to Prague, and I'm going to show you how easy and convenient it is to take a train in Europe. Let's go. When you walk into train stations, they feel more like airport terminals. Everything in here that you could possibly want or need. Food, clothes.
That is true.
Bakeries. And they're nice. Like, you want to be inside these places. Look at it, huge. Look at this. All the train stations here have a lovely dome. Although getting a ticket is sometimes a challenge. You just gotta figure out where to go. We're gonna go to English. Then we're gonna go to from Dresden to PR Prague. Aha. It's just so easy to take a train here. Platform 13. You go here, you wait for the train, and that's it. You show up 5 minutes before. What's cool about taking trains in Europe is that it's encouraged, and everyone does it. It's just easy and simple, and you can go long distances, short distances. Europe's really got it down, and I wish the US would have a train system. Yeah, we have an Amtrak, but I've never taken it. I don't really know anyone who takes it. I wish there was a train that connected Phoenix to LA, LA to Vegas, San Francisco to Seattle, way more conveniently. I know on the East Coast, you guys have some stuff like that, but it would be really nice to have that in the US because taking trains in Europe is awesome. The cities are built for public transportation, which makes it easy to use. I'm just so happy I can do this right now in Europe. If you're an American and you haven't been to Europe, you'll notice right away that the public transportation is incredible and will blow your mind and fun and easy to use. She's arriving right now. And just like that, I have arrived back in Prague, my favorite city in Europe. Easiest experience ever, highly recommended. Europe wins when it comes to public transportation, period. Next topic.
Education.
Getting a higher education in the US is really expensive, and it often leads to significant student debt. Almost all my friends, when we graduated college, we were all poor, and we had to work for like a decade just to pay off our student debt. That's the reality for many Americans who get college degrees. Believe it or not, tuition fees can be tens of thousands of dollars a semester, and it's absolutely crazy. That being said, we do have really, really great teachers, campuses, facilities, and colleges in the US overall are pretty amazing. On the other hand, Europe offers free or very low-cost education.
The UK or England again steps back here because uni is not free here. So it's just like, yeah, I don't associate with this.
Including universities.
Basically, in the most of European Union countries, it's for free. The only condition is that you know the language of the country.
European education emphasizes multicultural awareness and global perspectives, with many students learning multiple languages. And that's another really cool thing about Europe is people speak many languages because the proximity to countries are so close. On the other hand, Americans live a little bit more inside their own bubbles, focusing more on national news versus international news. If I had to do it all over again, I probably would have gone to a university in the US because the experience was so amazing. I made so many friends. I learned how to live on my own. I went to University of Wisconsin, which is such a great sports school. It's a party school. I was in a fraternity. Like, all these things were amazing, and it made me who I am today. But of course, I can't be a little bit jealous when all my European friends come out of school debt-free. Food for thought.
There we go. Language diversity.
Piggybacking off the last topic, Europeans really do speak many languages. In fact, I have European friends that can speak 8 to 10 languages.
This beer is very good. Das beer is ausgezeichnet. To pivo je výborný. Je to pivo очень вкусné. To pivo je veľmi dobré.
It's so mind-blowing to me because in the US, most people predominantly speak English. Feeling patriotic.
Let's go get some food.
All right.
Again, England steps back because we're the same.
You might have some people that learn Spanish or French if they continue to learn so in school. If they continue to try to pursue it after school, that's up to them. But if you walk into any grocery store...
But you can't blame Brits or Americans or Aussies because, like, firstly, they're not really bordering like the US is bordering Canada and also Mexico, which is also why there's a strong Spanish-speaking part of the US as well. But because Europe, there's so many small countries, and they're all probably people have been living. Maybe they have family that are from the Czech Republic, but then they live in Poland or whatever. It would make sense as to why you're learning all these languages, and again, they're so close in proximity. Don't get me wrong, it's pretty incredible that they can learn all these languages. I'm not like saying that that's not cool, because I would love to be like that. But the UK, for example, I mean, we're not living near countries, like, we're not bordered by countries that speak another language. So it's just like, you know what, can't necessarily blame us, but at the same time, it would be cool to speak another language. I mean, it's very hard at this age, but when you're younger, you obviously learn. But that's the education system, really. And they do try and teach you in school, but it's very basic stuff. Like, I can speak very basic French, pronounced all wrong, but I can just say, how are you? And that's pretty much it. Hello. Just the very small basics.
Across America, and you ask someone what language do they speak, I would guarantee you that they just say English.
Yeah.
It is true that in the US, English dominates in education, media, and daily communication.
What's it like to live out here in the countryside of Wyoming?
Oh, it's great until wintertime.
Whereas in Europe, on the other hand, it's a multilingual wonderland with multiple official languages.
Dobrodošli u Zagreb.
The country of Switzerland, for example, has four
national languages?
national languages.
So French, German, Italian, and I don't know what the other one is. It's probably a language within Switzerland.
Most kids in Europe grow.
Oh, it's not gonna. I want to search now. Sorry. Languages spoken. I'm not. For God's sake, not Sweden. Romansh, German, French. I guess that is the sort of the language from within Switzerland.
Grow up learning 2 or 3 languages from an early age, and they can achieve fluency by adulthood. In contrast, Americans might struggle with just one foreign language, usually taught in high school with limited success. This kind of linguistic diversity in Europe is really enriching, both if you live here as a European or if you're just traveling here as an outsider. It makes it so fun and exciting, and as I've always said throughout my travels, diversity is what makes the world go round. Smoking is more common and more...
And I hate this, bro. Smoking culture it just stinks. Like, that's the thing. We're definitely seeing pros and cons from either side. And it's cool to see, because some people will say they love this, and maybe it's sort of like seen as like a relaxing thing to do. But god damn it, I just don't like smoking. Do what you gotta do, but it's not for me, man. And it as a culture, stinky.
More socially acceptable in Europe, period. Hands down. Growing up in the US, we have the DARE program, which I went through, where we are taught in 5th grade that drugs are bad and that we can't smoke and it's gonna kill us. Yeah, looking back, it may have been a little bit extreme, those classes.
The thing is, the UK is now sort of going through trying to make a system of like banning smoking completely. And don't get me wrong, I'm all for not smoking, but very extreme lengths, to a point where you're not giving people the ability to smoke who are very young when they become adults. And I think they're not going to have the ability to actually buy stuff from shops like cigarettes, which is very extreme. But I guess we're sort of becoming a very extreme country and trying to stop it as well, which is interesting.
But they really drilled into your head how bad smoking is for your health. And it's true. In my opinion, all around Europe, smoking is more of like a fashion trend. It's like a cool thing to do, and it's almost like if you're sitting with a group of friends and they offer you a cigarette, you almost have to say yes as like a cultural thing. I don't know how else to explain it. Other countries in Asia and Africa and the Middle East are similar in that regard, but I just find it really interesting how people here just smoke and they smoke and they smoke and they smell like smoke all day. At some point, it just becomes a lifestyle. In almost all indoor places in the US, aside from maybe casinos, smoking is now banned and prohibited, and you cannot do it inside. Whereas in Europe, even here in Prague, there are many bars and restaurants.
Yeah, go clubbing. People are smoking. It's mental.
Restaurants that you can actually just light up a cigarette inside. It's really, really interesting. Here in Europe, you can also find cigarette vending machines. How wild is that? In the US, you can find anti-smoking ads, and just to be honest, smoking is just scrutinized across the board. However, when it comes to vaping, the US might have Europe beat.
Oh, damn, is it really?
I'm gonna open up this chapter on an emotional beat because I'm standing right in front of Namisi Miru Church, where I lived and studied abroad in 2012, right down that street. This place has always been a home for me, and if it wasn't for Prague and this exact spot, then I wouldn't be here doing what I do today. A lot of my love for Europe stems from the beautiful history and the old streets. Look at these cobblestones that I'm walking on.
Keep walking and look up to the right.
Oh, wow.
As an American, it is so cool and special that Europe is so old, and there's all these beautiful churches, historical monuments, buildings like this with gargoyles on top. Like, we don't have anything that looks remotely similar to this in the US, and everything in the US is new. It's just so charming to walk around and experience and see these beautiful buildings on every single corner. It's freaking awesome.
I love the detail. It's just amazing.
Some cities are more beautiful than others, like Prague, Paris, Madrid, Budapest, Bucharest, Romania. I find these places to be some of the most beautiful. Spectacular views.
The architecture in Prague is outstanding. Everywhere. Gives me the goosebumps.
Man, just walking around Europe is like a freaking museum.
We're in the Colosseum. Is it cool?
Every corner, everywhere you go. These buildings are like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years old. In the US, we do have some old cities like New York, Boston on the East Coast, which are a few hundred years old, but we ain't got nothing on European cities. Castles, cathedrals, and ancient ruins are preserved and integrated into modern life, with governments designating money to maintain these sites.
This is the Temple of Juno, which is a Greek temple that was made in the 5th century BC. It's just absolutely incredible.
Can you find anything like this in America?
Not even close. I don't think anywhere in the world you can find something like.
Probably not like this, but at the same time, there's definitely the city in the US that's like built in like the rocks or something. That place is old, isn't it? Plus, look, like you look at like Mexico with the pyramids and stuff. I forgot what the Mexican pyramids are called. There's surely stuff like that throughout the US that is so old. Maybe not within cities. Maybe it's just throughout the US. There's definitely history there, but look, I mean, Europe, you can't really compete when it's had civilizations with these cities for years and years, hundreds of years before, thousands of years before. You can't. It's just not possible. Nothing you can really do about it.
This is incredible.
In big American cities, you see a lot of skyscrapers and new things. But in Europe, skyscrapers are almost looked down upon. You want to keep things traditional. You don't want buildings to go above that height. All in all, when it comes to history and beautiful buildings, Europe 1, USA 0.
It's such a different world than ours, but I love both.
The USA
Food culture.
thrives on big food portions and unhealthy nutrition.
That's a huge size, Grandma.
You ordered too much popcorn. Look, we have 3 bags.
I thought they were small.
If you ever go to eat food in the US, you'll find a massive plate with a lot of calories on it. And it's kind of gross. I just think about IHOP or any like American
hate
diner,
America?
and you sit down and you order something and it's just a lot going on. And to be honest, it's reflected in the people's health. A lot of America is overweight. Go outside of any big city in the country and you will see people that are very, very large, which is unfortunate and sad. Europe, on the other hand, is clean and petite and nice. And when you eat, you just get a smaller portion of the food.
Look how small these are, though. Who wants a... This is probably going to cost like £30 or €30. Maybe not that much. But if this costs more than €2, I'm sorry, but no thank you. It's just crackers and cheese, isn't it? It's probably good. Maybe I'll try it and I'll actually think, yeah, fair enough. But come on, this portion size is not going to fill anyone up.
This food is absolutely delicious, fresh.
So good, my love.
A lot of times the vegetables and ingredients are much fresher and healthier and directly from the source. Not everywhere, of course, I'm generalizing a little bit, but I find this to be the case for most places compared to the US. And when you think about all this, it kind of makes sense because the fast food culture of the US caters to American lifestyles. We're always on the go. We always have like a quick second just to eat and get out of there. We don't have leisurely time to hang out and relax. Whereas here in Europe, everything is just relaxation time. You want to go to the cafe and chill.
this isn't England again. This is Europe. England just doesn't fit into this mold at all. You get cafes here and there, but the culture is not just to go to cafes and chill. It's more like going to pubs and chilling, drinking some beer and stuff. So we're not really comparable with that either. But when I went to Romania and when I went to Vienna, you see it a lot. Romania especially, there's a lot of cafes just everywhere.
With your friends, you want to go to the restaurant
Italy
and
as
hang
well.
out. When the weather is nice in Europe, everyone, and I mean everyone, is outside enjoying their lunch, coffee, Aperol Spritz. We just sat down amongst many Germans here in the center of Quedlinburg. Everyone just enjoying the outdoors behind me. And therefore, you do get finer and healthier quality, period. This is a topic that I'm actually really passionate about because as I get older, I'm trying to eat healthier. But when I go to the US, it's hard to eat healthy. It's just difficult. But here in Europe, everywhere you go, there's like little cafes on the corner that are selling salads and non-fried and non-greasy foods. And it just makes it a lot easier to take care of your health.
Environmental awareness.
Europeans recycle more and they focus more on sustainability. As you can see, where you throw away your trash, there's like different bins for different things. And you'll see people actually following the rules and putting all the boxes here, all the bottles in here, and here for the trash. Just imagine how much cleaner the world would be if everybody followed Europeans' lead on this. In fact, many European countries lead in renewable energy and eco-friendly policies, making these practices just a part of daily life. It's normal for them to do these things. They don't have to go out of their way because it's built into the culture. The city is so clean, even though there's so many tourists here, because there's amazing ladies that just clean the city all day long. Most European countries have strict rules on single-use plastics, promote reusable items, and have good public transportation that reduces car pollution. Getting on the tram here, a beautiful old historic tram of Prague, gives it all the charm in the world. Green spaces in cities encourage outdoor activities and help improve air quality. In the US, let's just say that we don't care so much about recycling. And
So in the US, is there no such thing as like recycling? Like, so in the UK, you have two bins. You have a black bin and a blue bin. And you actually have a third one, which is a waste bin for like food and stuff. The black bin is just more like stuff that you can't recycle. So I guess just certain materials and just waste products. Recycling is obviously like recyclable stuff. I think everyone knows what that will be. But I would have just assumed that's a thing. But in the US, do you just bin everything in the same bin, basically? And also there's a gardening bin in the UK, but that's only for people who, I guess, have gardens.
it's really a shame. This might be changing in recent generations, but even myself, growing up, we only recycled like big things, like a cardboard box or a big carton of milk. We didn't actually like collect everything separately and put it in different trash cans. We would just throw a water bottle in the same trash can that we would throw food waste. In the US, I see a lot of people littering and not taking care of the streets. And for such a big country with 350 million people, you can imagine the massive impact that it has on the world. I will say that some places in the US do put recycling forward, but overall as a society, as a nation, I think we are light years behind Europe. And this might not be a problem for us in today's world, but for our kids' generation, it's detrimental.
Recycle, please. We do care about Earth.
Fashion.
Many Americans dress really casually, like myself. Baseball cap, regular shirt or athletic shirts. I'm wearing yoga shorts right now. A lot of Americans love to rep their universities or their sporting teams. And that's just how we are. You know, hoodies, regular shoes, socks, shorts. Europeans, on the other hand, are really fancy. And when they dress up to go to dinners and to go out and...
Again, this isn't England. Just taking a step back once again. For sure.
Just to like, whenever they leave their house, even if they go to the grocery store, they just present themselves nicer and they have fancier haircuts and they're more elegant looking. And personally, I feel a little bit like an outsider in some situations when I go sit outside on a cafe and everyone's looking nice.
Hold up. What the hell is this outfit?
A little bit like an outsider in some situations.
That's such an interesting outfit. No socks. He's got very short socks, some Air Max on, some jeans, some cuffed jeans that don't even reach his ankle. And then he's got a suit jacket on. Wait, what the hell is going on?
If I go sit outside on a cafe and everyone's looking nice and I'm just there, like, clearly there's an American dude that shows up, but this is usually how they can pick out Americans from the crowd in any city in the world. It's like how they dress. Everything's so posh and fancy here. I feel like I stand out wearing my Be Spontaneous shirt. We stumbled upon a wedding and I don't think we fit in very well. Everyone's dressed super nicely. This is also reflected in the workplace, in the work environment, where in the US, a lot of companies are more casual with like jeans and just a regular shirt, whereas in Europe, they take fashion more seriously and people have to dress up, look nicer, and hey, there's nothing wrong with looking nice, you know? There might be many Americans watching this out there that really like looking nice, and that's awesome. But I'm just saying, overall as a society, Europeans care a lot more about their looks.
Yeah,
Random side note, this tower,
sad, but...
called Žižkov Tower in Prague, is a really awkward looking building, and you can see there's black babies going up and down the side of it right there. Really, really weird and funky.
Wait, what the fuck?
Let's look in this circle, for example. All the houses are really nice and neat. Most of them are just apartments. The buildings are right next to each other. Everything's kind of laid out perfectly nicely. There's plazas, people are reading in the park, sitting in their little chairs. It almost feels like a fake life, like you would see in a movie, like a giant movie set. That's how it feels here in most of Europe. Wow, that is...
Wow, so cool.
And it's nice. It's nice to hang out, walk around, and sit down. It's freaking beautiful. A lot of the buildings are really old. They've been here for many years, and that's just how they are.
This is the lovely Prague Castle, the oldest castle in the entire world. First I'm in Milan, chilling by the famous Duomo. This really epic looking old structure. A dream come true trip right here.
A lot of times the buildings will have these cool like statues and gargoyles and sculptures like inside of it just because of the history of Europe is really old and cool. And I think that's pretty awesome. One thing that I really don't like about the situation in Europe is that they don't have AC almost anywhere. In Prague in summer right now, we've been suffering because they just say like, oh, it's only 6 weeks of the year, it's hot, but like it's freaking burning in there. And yes, I sound like a spoiled American right now talking, but it's miserable.
Wow,
it's so clean here. Almost everywhere you go in the US, aside from some of the big cities on the East Coast, everything's new. The buildings are new, which means they can be fancier, which means they can have better circulation, air conditioning, insulation, all these things. In the US, we love our patios and our decks outside, and we just like to have a room for things.
I literally cannot believe how big these houses are.
Whereas in Europe, you don't really get that. You might get a little balcony that you can sit outside. Other than that, you're really just confined to a smaller space. In your flat, which is what they call apartments here, they call them flats. We also have huge appliances like dishwashers and washing machines that are really big and nice to use. Also dryers. You cannot find those all over Europe. A lot of times they hang their clothes to dry. Many American homes also have big kitchens, taller ceilings, things like that. Whereas in Europe, things are a little bit more tighter and condensed because everyone tends to live like in the city center, especially if there's apartments and stuff. You just have less space in general. Like America's everything's big. Like Texas, things are bigger in Texas.
Big cards in Texas. They definitely party big in Texas.
Whereas here in Europe, everything's kind of petite.
That's all the water we get. Like just a tiny little...
Bloody hell.
Yeah.
That's
in
one
America, it's
goal.
always like this big, like my face big.
That's one goal per
If I had to pick
quarter.
one, Europe all the way. Look how nice this is. I can't
Damn.
look over this spot and tell.
I mean, look, in terms of looks, right, this is a capital city. This is a beautiful looking area. In terms of size and like this ability to do stuff, I feel like the US obviously wins as well. It depends what you're looking for. Plus, not all European apartments look like this at all. You get some pretty awful ones too. But it depends what you're looking for, I guess. This area does look nice though. I mean, I'll give him that.
Fantastic.
Measurement.
For some weird reason,
Oh.
America uses the imperial system,
The
which
metric
means
system.
measuring distance in miles, weight in pounds, and volume in gallons. It's so funny to me because most of the world has no idea what any of this is. Here in Europe and almost everywhere else in the world, they use the metric system. That means covering distances in kilometers, weight in kilograms, and volume in liters. All of these things can be pretty confusing for Americans traveling in Europe and vice versa. But if you want to be a more worldly citizen, I'm talking to you Americans, you should try to learn the metric system. It's really helpful for travel. And it's also very simple and convenient, based on units of 10, making calculations and conversions much easier. Also, don't forget that in the US, we use Fahrenheit to tell weather.
It's minus 22 degrees.
Fahrenheit does confuse me. Like how it's sort of, it's the same as Celsius at one point, but then it changes again. But again, if you grow up with it, you're probably going to understand it a lot more, or you will.
I can't feel my hands or my face.
Right now, it's about 85 degrees Fahrenheit, but in Europe and the rest of the entire world, they use Celsius, or right now it's probably around 30 degrees. Luckily, I know both because I've been traveling the world for 12 years, so it's easier for me to have conversations with non-Americans.
It's weird. See, I sort of grew up with miles, but then I grew up with like liters and centimeters and stuff. So it is a weird one because it sort of interchanges, and Celsius. But yeah, miles is like what I grew up with in terms of like distance. Like how far it is to that place. I don't know why. Maybe before it was how it was in the UK and it was just passed down through like your parents or whatever.
About things like weather, but this is
I
always
couldn't tell you kilometers to miles. I understand miles more. So
something that confuses me about the US, and I think it's just because we like to be bigger and greater and different than everyone else in the world.
damn.
In the US, coffee is consumed on the go, with people grabbing their morning cups from drive-through places.
Any kind of hot coffee. Americano. I'll have a latte.
They're just quickly running into Starbucks, ordering on the app,
and running out. We also pretty much only consume coffee in disposable paper cups. In Europe, it's a whole different story.
So you always drink it while standing at the bar. It's cheaper that way.
Again, this is the UK like, not being involved, because this isn't really a thing in the UK. Again, you have it in certain places, like certain cafes. But I'd say 80% of the time, coffee is consumed on the go, like in non-reusable cups.
It's that bitter taste, just like goes through your veins. It's like one sip wakes you up. I'm serious. This is like a perfect cappuccino with the foam top. Look at this. First bite of a cappuccino has to be with a spoon.
The coffee culture is alive and real here, but people take their time when they drink and they see it as more of like a social thing. Even if they're by themselves, they'll still go to the street corner, sit down at a cafe outside, of course, enjoying the beautiful day, and get a coffee, and they'll just sit there and either read or work. It's more of like an enjoyable leisure activity. They always have like coffee mugs. Of course, the Europeans don't like waste with plastic and paper. They always just have everything feel more proper and more solidified. And it's all about the experience, of course.
Where the hell is that?
Bring it out to grandma.
When it comes to breakfast in the US, everything is really heavy and greasy. Think about omelets, think about breakfast burritos, pancakes, hash browns, bacon, egg, and cheese sandwiches. These are heavy, heavy, heavy items that make you really full and have a lot of calories.
All the flavors of cheese and beans and eggs and sauce on one plate.
In Europe, breakfast is nothing more than a little pastry.
Buttery, flaky, puffy pastry.
Or a little cookie, or something sweet.
This is everything I want right now. A small espresso and a chocolate croissant. It's so great.
It's so
I think this is a lot of generalising though, isn't it? Because not everyone in Europe's going to just eat a pastry. I mean, I never used to eat pastries when I was growing up. I would just be cereal and toast. And throughout the US, not everyone's going to have this massive meal. It depends. Maybe sometimes you do. Maybe some people do always have it. Depends what you do, but not everyone's gonna do it. Some people probably have pastries, only just pastries in the US as well. Just depends.
It's so different, and it's funny. Like here in Europe, all the breakfast places that you'll go to, like good breakfast places, are like American branded. It'll be like American breakfast, American sausage, American scrambled eggs. The breakfast is one of the biggest differences that I find between Europe and the US. It's crazy different. In Europe, if it's not a croissant, it's just like a piece of fruit or a little bit of cheese or one slice of bread.
What? That's a breakfast.
Soft and mushy. Absolutely worth it.
I will say though that the bakeries in Europe are awesome. They're amazing. They actually bake bread fresh every day in most countries around Europe. So it smells good on the streets, and you know that you're getting quality bread. It's not like processed. It's not like ordered on a big truck and shipped over. So I definitely side with Europe on this one. Although I got to admit, I do love Starbucks. Oh, this one really makes me feel ashamed to be American in Europe.
Damn.
Why are we so loud and obnoxious? Like, we have to like scream when we're coming out of the bars at night, and we have to like be picking fights in bars and be like...
England takes a step back here again. Fucking hell. Bro, England is the worst country for like drunk people causing problems.
America, I really don't like this about American culture for whatever it is. I don't know why we always have to be the loud guys and the good guys. I think Brits and Aussies are kind of similar in this regard.
What?
But when it comes to Europeans, they're much quieter. Like, there could be a lot of people out and about, but they're not like screaming and chanting. They're just like sitting, enjoying their beer, their wine, and just like hanging out. I like that culture.
Thank you.
Dankeschön. In general, Europeans are just more reserved. And when you're dining, people just don't talk that loud. They just keep to themselves. It's kind of nice. Social gatherings in America are loud and energetic. But in Europe, people are more respectful of other people's personal space. I also think the contrast in behavior can be seen in customer service, where American employees are typically more enthusiastic and outgoing, and they kind of won't stop talking to you. It's all that like fake conversation, like, hey, how's your day going? Oh, what are you up to today? Blah, 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 blah. Oh, we should hang out later. It's very American to be like fake in that regard. This really drives me crazy about Americans, and when I'm home, I feel really out of my element. I don't know if any of you guys can relate to that, but like going to the grocery store, I don't need to like share my life story with the lady checking out. Like, just check out, you go on with your day, I go on with my day. I don't need to like tell you what my plans are later and how my work is going and all that. Like, Americans see this as being friendly, but for me, I just see it as pointless conversation that just doesn't need to happen because you don't know that person.
Damn.
If you know them and they're in your friend group and circle, it's different. Europeans cut.
I mean, I don't agree with that. I feel like chat's nice, especially if someone just wants someone to talk to. Maybe if you're someone who's busy and you've got stuff to do, fair enough. But a lot of people probably enjoy just a small talk and just having someone to chat to for a little bit, for 20 seconds, you know? just getting something off their chest or whatever it is. I was not expecting this because he's like a channel that sort of travels around talking to people. So I'm kind of surprised by this one.
Through all that bullshit, especially.
Look, this is his own point of view. A lot of people will disagree, and we see Brits going to the US and loving that sort of side of things. So I guess it just depends on the person. But I am surprised by this one specifically.
At a restaurant or anywhere on the street interactions, they're a lot more formal and blunt, and it could be considered rude, but I don't know, I kind of like it.
Wait, look, the risotto with the meat risotto.
Another example is if you're on the train in Europe, people are just going to sit and keep to themselves, kind of like in Asia. But in the US, people might be talking on the phone loudly or hanging out with their bros. And like, I guess for me, I prefer to be more on the quieter side. I don't like to be obnoxious in front of people. I think I get this trait from my mom, who doesn't want to be like the center of negative attention, which is a good thing. But it's definitely a stark difference between how Americans act in public and how Europeans act in public. And this is one of the biggest differences between Europe and the US that I see. And I definitely side with Europeans on this one. Of course, another disclaimer is not every European and every American is like this. I'm very much generalizing, okay? But this is just what I see and what I've experienced from spending 2.5 years in Europe.
Sports, here we go.
Saving one of the best topics for last because I am a huge sports fan, athlete. I've played many sports and I love watching sports. It's a little bit different in America versus Europe. I will say that there are passionate fans respectively. But of course in Europe, it's all about football, or as we say it in the US, soccer. It's super popular here. The Euro Cup just happened. Fans are like crazy, crazy, crazy passionate about their country, about their inner leagues, about football or soccer, all around Europe and the whole world, really. In the US, it's primarily basketball, baseball, American football, emphasis on the American football because that sport is really only played in the US. And of course, like golf and tennis, but these are popular in both places.
Horton, hook 'em horn!
Sports that are common between the US and Europe are hockey, basketball, tennis, and golf. I think those 4 sports are really active and played among the average Joe in the countries and also for professionals. Europe also has regional sports like rugby and cricket, which you can find in certain regions, but not all over Europe. Here's a major difference though. In the US, college sports are huge. I went to the University of Wisconsin. We went to 3 Rose Bowls during my college years, which is American football. It's like a big event for those non-Americans out there. We also have really big hockey and we have really big basketball and we go to March Madness every year. And like, I went to a lot of games as a kid. In fact, I chose Wisconsin because of the sports. That was one of the main reasons I wanted to go to a school with great sports. I'm a passionate sports fan. European sports are like dead. I don't even know if there are competitions of like European basketball of other teams. I actually don't think that exists. And if it does exist, please let me know because I've never heard about it. On big college campuses in the US, we have massive games that are publicly televised to millions of people. And there's a lot of things happening around the stadiums. There's tailgating and pre-gaming and all the restaurants and bars are busy near the stadiums. And it's like a cultural immersion thing when there's a game on a college campus. I will say though, the energy and excitement around any European football match is unparalleled to anything that we can find in the US. I haven't been to...
Especially in like Greece and Turkey. Just Eastern Europe. They go mental, like in the best possible way. It's probably over the top sometimes, for sure. But like seeing the footage in their like sporting events, because it's not just football there, it's basketball as well. I saw like in Greece, they go mental for the basketball. There's like flares within the stadium, which probably isn't the safest, but it's mad to see.
Many, but I have seen them on TV and I have many friends who have gone and I know that the environments are crazy. In Europe, the football teams often have deep historical roots in their communities, which honestly creates a strong sense of identity and pride because these teams have been around for hundreds of years. So it kind of makes sense. In the US, all the big sports are really like big businesses when you think about it, and that's why teams relocate and change names. It's all about the money. In any regard, the cultural importance is clear for sports, whether it's in the US, whether it's in Europe, and I find the way that it's expressed is really, really interesting. All right, and that wraps up the cultural difference.
Well, there we go. He definitely seemed to side with Europe for a lot of these. Unfairly maybe at certain points, but hey, again, like I said, people are going to have different opinions. I thought this would be more like it was just going to be more like sort of, I guess, balanced in what he thought, but I guess that's just how he feels. Out of all the things mentioned in this video, which cultural difference do you think? Oh, stop seeing Europe as a country. You can't compare the US and Europe. Sweden is a lot different to Greece. Main difference between the US and Europe is that the US is designed for cars, Europe is designed for the people. Okay. About smoking, due to EU regulations, smoking inside is prohibited in all EU countries. That's not true. I literally went clubbing in Malta and people were smoking in the club. So that wasn't true. Many Americans see long working hours as a sign of productivity and success. Japanese, that's cute. I live in the Netherlands and I see so many things that's not true. It's because every European country has their own rules and number one country is the same. Yep, that's a very fair point. But look, it's probably going to piss a lot of people off, but I just went into this to try and see some differences. Let me know your thoughts on this. If you're someone who's been to Europe and you're from the US, let me know your sort of experiences and what you felt about it, or vice versa. You're from Europe, you went to the US, and yeah, like sort of things that you enjoyed about going there, things that you missed from home, and yeah, that's that kind of stuff. But hopefully you enjoyed, and until next time, like, subscribe, and peace.